back today, and my special guest is Andre Petroski. You might have seen him recently competing in the Ultimate Fighter under Team Ortega, and then a very impressive win over Michael Gilmore in the finale. Andre, how are you?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you being on. So we'll start at the beginning, man. We'll talk a little bit about your early life and then wrestling as well.
Sounds good.
All right, man. So yeah, how did you get started, and where did you grow up?
So my bad.
Oh, you're good.
I did the same thing, the other one. I set an alarm for the podcast, and then when it goes off, it messes up the audio. My bad.
You're good, man.
So I grew up in Springfield. My dad was a wrestler. He wrestled at Penn State. My uncle was a big wrestler. My grandfather was a big wrestler. All big wrestling fans. My dad had some boxing matches, and he taught at a karate gym. And I hated karate. I didn't have the patience for it, but we would always watch the UFC fights. You know what I mean? We would watch the WEC. When the first fight that really got me in was Uriah Faber and Jens Pulver. This is like, shoot, man. I want to say like 2006, 2007 maybe. And I just was immediately like a fan. It was just I would always watch the fighting, but I was really just wrestling at the time. And then I would do some jiu-jitsu or some sparring, and always was a big fan of fighting. And then once college was over, I wrestled for 5 years in college. So then once that was over, I started doing jiu-jitsu, and then I took my first fight.
So what was that like, just growing up wrestling basically all your life, and then going into college, the transition? Like, what are some of the obstacles that you ran into from even just going from high school transitioning into college?
Well, for one, it might sound whatever, but I really was my dad trained me my whole life. He was like my wrestling coach, my nutritionist, my trainer, he was everything. And so kind of just breaking off from that was it was good and bad too, there was benefits. It was time, and I had already started to in high school, but once I left for college, I was really on my own.
And the mental toughness, we hear a lot about a lot of the guys that have a wrestling background, talk about that, they feel like that they've been through tons and tons of obstacles. So when they get in the cage, they're not necessarily, I don't think anybody's afraid, but they just feel a sense of confidence knowing that background that they have is going to propel them and help them. So can you talk a little bit about the mental toughness that maybe people don't see as far as when it comes to wrestling?
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing is just being comfortable with competition. A lot of guys that, that didn't grow up wrestling since they were little kids, they might not be as familiar with competition. And some do well, some handle it well, and a lot of guys aren't used to it, and it takes them a while to get comfortable. They might get real nervous, and I think that just that aspect of competing every weekend since I was 4 or 5 years old, it's just become second nature. It's just what we do. We make weight and then we compete, and it's not like I'm able to stay on an even keel. My goal is to be in this sport for as long as possible, to win as many fights as possible. And so to do that, you gotta kind of understand that it's a marathon and not always a sprint. And if you want to have a 10-year fighting career, God willing, you're going to have to try to stay on that even keel. If you get too high and too low emotionally, I think that a lot of my teammates that I see do that end up falling off.
That leads me into my next topic, the show. So obviously you competed on there. You were a favorite. I remember watching the first episode, and I felt the same way. I said, man, this guy just looks like, he's next level, looks comfortable. Obviously you go in there, you get a win, and you take a loss. But overall, what would you say about your time on the show? Your experience that you took from it, some things that you like more than others.
I loved the experience personally. Like they really make it a point so that like you have nothing else to worry about. Like you don't have a phone, there's no TV, you're completely alienated, you have no job, you don't have to wake up and go to your job. Like you literally have to do nothing. They come in, they wake you up 30 minutes before practice, you make breakfast, they drive you to practice. Like you don't have to do anything, like nothing. Like your only job is to like figure out what you want to eat the next day and like show up to practice and work hard. Like it's a fucking, like you're in heaven. Like for a world champion, that's heaven. Like I don't got to worry about nothing. And like it's tough. Like, cause I know like I'm not, it's my daughter, but like it is what it is. Like worrying about them ain't gonna help you. You can't do shit. You're not gonna leave. Like it's the opportunity of a lifetime. Like you might as well just stay there, just get better. That's all you got to do. And I love that. That's a simple life for me. It was good.
What are some of the best advice, that you took from the coaches? I mean, obviously being a sponge and trying to soak up everything. What's something that really resonated with you?
Dude, Henner Gracie is like a really good at teaching, and so is Brian. Obviously, Brian came from Henner Gracie, but these are tremendous teachers. Like the Gracies always talk about, they spent half the time learning jiu-jitsu and the other half of the time learning how to teach jiu-jitsu, and the ability to teach jiu-jitsu was always like, just as important, because like for them, it was always a business. It was always about, making gyms, spreading the sport. And if you can't teach it, you're not going to make any money. No one's going to come to your gym. So they're like very good at teaching it. Like Brian would say, like, like I can give you a whole pie of pizza, or I can give you a slice at a time. And if you eat a slice at a time, you can digest the information. You can learn quicker. When you first asked me, I thought you were gonna say in my whole life. I didn't know that you were gonna say with the Ultimate Fighter coaches. But I had a coach. He would say to me, he had a house on the farm, the Foxcatcher farm, and he would say to me, Andre, you know what the golden rule is? And I would say, yeah, do unto others as you blah, blah, blah. And he'd say, nah, ye who has the gold makes the rules.
That's a mind blown right there.
Yeah.
So then, with the loss, man, did you feel that there was going to be another chance? Because obviously guys get chances down the road like you did, but initially, did you think that you would be able to, step back in there in the octagon?
So initially I did, and then I thought I wasn't going to. As soon as I lost that fight, like a couple producers and even Dana, they were saying like, oh, don't worry, you're gonna get another fight. You're gonna get a fight on the finale. And I was like, all right, cool. So I just thought that I was going to. And then I saw that the finale was announced. And then like a couple days later, I saw that the card was full. So I was like, oh man, that don't sound good. And I called my coach and he was like, yeah, I mean, we'll look around. I don't know. So I mean, my understanding was that I wasn't supposed to be on the finale. And I think that a couple guys got COVID and it kind of fell off.
But then you take that fight on 10 days notice, man. I mean, that's got to be a lot of emotions, you know, thinking that you were going to be on there, then it coming out, you weren't, then they call you. I mean, what was that whole process like?
When they called, I was just thrilled to get the opportunity, you know. I didn't care who it was, to be honest. I still think I'm the best in that house, to be honest. I thought I was the best in the competition. I just made a couple of mistakes, man, and they're all learning experiences. And, you know, I think I'm a better fighter than Brian. I think that I showed that in the first round. I just got to be able to put things together. And, you know, 10 days notice is that I don't mind. You know, I don't cut a lot of weight. I only walk around 10 pounds over. So for me, like, short notice was great. I'm always in the gym. I'm always ready. And, yeah, it was cool. I almost like it better because it's like you don't have all this time to overthink a fight. At the end of the day, like, it is just a fist fight. Like, we're just going to go in there and fight. Like, it's a fist fight with wrestling, and wrestling that I've been doing since I was 4 years old. Like, there's no reason to really sit and overthink it and analyze it. Like, 10 days notice, there's no time for that. You just show up and you perform, and that's it.
Then you get the win, you know, you do the octagon interview, you know, you're riding the high, but when the cameras cut off and now you're able to get out, how did you celebrate the win?
I mean, I was in Vegas, but I had some tea. I watched some cartoons, maybe some ice cream.
Yeah, just a good experience. We'll
just trying to be a good role model. That's all.
We'll leave it at that. Would you like to see yourself fighting again before the year's over?
Yeah, I really want to. And, you know, like I said, I'm only 10 pounds over. So if short notice, I mean, we're hoping to get something, but yeah, these cards are filling up quick.
And then when you're not fighting, I know you're a family man and you're taking care of business, but obviously when you're not fighting, how do you spend your time? Not training either, you know.
I do a lot of privates. I train a lot of people. You know, some people that just want to get in shape, some people that, you know, want to learn takedowns, some people want to hit pads. So it's cool, man. I get to work with a lot of interesting people, you know, from all different walks of life. Not all just fighters that, you know, want to learn how to wrestle or anything. Is people from all over. And I do that, and I do security. And yeah, man. That's it, man. I'm in the gym a lot, to be honest. I'm in the gym every day, most days, twice a day. So there's not really a whole lot of time outside of that. And if I have 2 hours between practices, like, I want to see my daughter, you know, so there's not like a whole lot of time.
And then one kind of sideball question that I'm curious about. Could you see yourself commentating? I know a lot of these guys will commentate in between at times. Is that something that you think you might be interested in?
I would love to. I have in the past, to be honest. I've commentated for Art of War. Might commentate a little bit next weekend for Stellar.
Okay.
I love that. I love that stuff, you know. So I think that I'm not terribly, like, I'm decently well spoken, you know. I'm not terrible. I might lose my train of thought here and there, but yeah, absolutely. I mean, I love watching fights. I love that stuff. So that's all right up my wheelhouse.
Okay. And advice, what advice would you give to anybody? A lot of people are following in the Ultimate Fighter footsteps. That show's been great for so many people, champions and non-champions, just in general. So what advice would you give to somebody looking to compete?
Yeah. You got to build a life around, around the sport, whether it's, if you want to be, if you really want to do this, like you got to build, everything has to come around this sport, like find the best gym in the area. You move close to that gym, you want to have a girlfriend, you got to have a girlfriend that, that loves fighting, because she's going to be, what I mean? If she don't want to watch fighting, you're not going to be watching fighting. Like if you want to, you got to just really obsess over this. You want friends, you got to have friends that love fighting. You got to have friends that are in the gym with you. Like you just build a life around fighting, or whatever it is you're passionate, whatever your passion is, whatever you want to do, you got to build a life around that. That's got to be the priority. It's got to be the number one thing in your life.
Last, I'm sorry, man, but how hard is it to balance? Again, because you dedicate so much to a sport, it's part of your livelihood, and then you're still trying to find time to, do the family thing as well.
Balance is a luxury that I cannot afford. One day, though, I hope.
Okay.
One day
it's coming.
There's no balance in spending 6 hours a day at the gym.
You can only spread yourself.
Over fighting.
Yeah, you can only spread yourself so much. So
yeah,
I got you. Andre, I appreciate you coming on today. I can't wait to see what happens in your next fight. I'm sure you're gonna knock him down. And best of luck to you.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. All right. We'll see you.